Hello, my friends.
Hello. Hello.
Welcome to my inaugural book signing. As most of you know, my name is Sam Glaser, and I am a composer, producer, performer, chazan, and now author. So first I want to extend my gratitude to Rabbi Michael Barclay, who about 5 years ago found me after my name was brought up to him as somebody who could possibly be a cantor for this fine synagogue. And we hit it off right away, and we have so many stories that we've shared, and it is a real honor to share the bima with him. And I really appreciate his strength and his determination, his emphasis on being a family man, combining multiple spiritualities to come up with a great Torah derech or path. And I'm just honored that you're my friend and that you took a stand and said, someone's got to throw you your first book signing and it's going to be me. So, secondly, I want to just acknowledge my wife, who is my partner in life, and who I don't always get to have at my various concerts. She can only handle hearing my repertoire so many times. But she motivated today to be with me and share this with me, and I'm very grateful, and I hope you get to know her. She's an amazing, wonderful woman. And lastly, I just want to thank all of you for showing up on a beautiful Sunday and taking some time to learn a little Torah and discuss this new enterprise of mine, the Joy of Judaism. So give yourself a round of applause. So I started writing the Joy of Judaism in 2009. I was at an educators conference called the CAGE Conference. Stands for Coalition for Jewish Education. And I've now performed at over 25 of those conferences. Thank God they keep inviting me back. I love performing and teaching for, at that point, what was a group of about 2,000 teachers, rabbis, cantors, synagogue leadership from all over the country that would descend on a different college campus every summer to spend a week discussing Torah, new methods, what gets everybody excited, learning new music, art, everything you can imagine under the sun that is Judaically inspired. And I really flourished in this environment, and I felt like I was experiencing Jewish diversity and pluralism for the first time. Because when you go to a synagogue and perform, which is really my circuit, it's usually Reformed, Conservative, Orthodox. Everybody's got their own little fiefdom. Everybody thinks they're the only ones who exist. And you rarely see people all getting together. And everyone at CAGE is mutually uncomfortable. Everyone's getting their buttons pushed. And I love that. And it's a challenge because we can all learn from one another. And sure enough, CAGE is one of those few places where I see that actually happening, where Jewish unity is actualized and not just theoretical. The publisher of Moment magazine at that point was a man named Michael Monheit, who I had befriended because Moment, which is one of the foremost national independent Jewish magazines, came out with a music edition every August. And I was the guy they came to compile the music from all the various Jewish musicians, and we'd always have an advertising supplement. And back in the day when people listened to CDs, we'd have a CD that we would insert in the magazine. So I compiled most of those for them over the years, and we decided we would take a break from the conference and hit this prodigious gym in University of Vermont, where the conference was that summer. And we were on the elliptical trainer next to each other, and he said to me at one point, Sam, I'm just noting, and I've seen you do this many times, but I don't know of anyone who has such a grasp of the Jewish story. The trans-denominational vision, because you're, I think, the only composer-performer who's going to all of these institutions. So you have an overview that's fascinating, and also you have a relationship with the clergy and the teachers of all these organizations that I think is very rare. So what do you think about writing down your thoughts to inspire the rabbi's congregants and put it in your newsletter? I had a newsletter. I didn't think anybody would be interested in being bored with my writing, but he encouraged me to do so. So every month I made the commitment to write a 2,500-word essay based on a topic that I hope those rabbis would include in their sermons, or the teachers would incorporate in their classrooms.
Amen.
So, since my mailing list was growing, I now, instead of sending it out manually, had to use Constant Contact. I did so reluctantly because Constant Contact charges about $80 a month to maintain your mailing list. It seemed like I was paying for nothing since I had previously done it all on my own. But I appreciated the gift of having a mail list maintained for me. Or more importantly, the fact that I was spending that money every month, so you're damn right I'm going to put out the newsletter and write my essay. Sometimes we have to spend the money and feel guilty about it to actually do something. Putting your money where your mouth is. It's much like a gym membership. Right? You're spending your $40 a month for LA Fitness. You feel guilty when you don't go. Right? If you only go once a month, that's a $40 visit. So being one who's always efficient, as my wife likes to point out, and I don't like wasting money, I really made a practice of writing these essays. And pretty soon I realized that the subject I was writing about more than anything was joy. Because what made me sad as a young Jewish man was seeing my peers blow off their Judaism. I had the opportunity in my mid-20s to go to Jerusalem to learn in a yeshiva at a point in my life where I didn't even know what a yeshiva was. I was a conservative raised kid at Sinai Temple, post-bar mitzvah, not much Jewishly going on. And because I was able to have this adult awakening and always felt connected to Israel and my Judaism, Zionism, I was emphatic to my friends that they find something within Judaism that they could relate to. Of course, they laughed at me. And even though I really didn't know my proverbial tushy from my elbow, I was sort of a rabbi in their eyes. And I recognized, okay, so maybe I have this leadership role, and I want all of my buddies, most of whom intermarried, to have an awareness of just the value of the preciousness of their heritage. At least they could learn a little. At least they could experience some of the joy that I experienced as I started delving into my heritage. The more I learned, the more I loved it. The more I loved it, the more I felt guilty for being selfish if I wasn't sharing it. So the Joy of Judaism became my outlet to share this enthusiasm I have for Jewish practice. I also wanted people to know that the more you invest in Judaism and a relationship with God, the more empowered and joyful one becomes. And for me, the difference was taking on mitzvot, even the archaic ones that you may think are no longer valid or important. I compared in the book to filling a balloon with helium to present to your children, but trying to fill a balloon that's perforated, a balloon that's got a lot of holes. The helium's not going to stay inside. But when you close up the holes, you have a little miniature spacecraft that can go to the highest stratosphere. So little by little, I tried to fill those holes in my knowledge, because my knowledge of my Judaism was on a 7th grade level. So the more I invested, the more rewarded I felt, and then the more urgently I felt the need to get this message out. I then created a matrix of 70 chapters, 70 things I wanted to discuss, and continued to chip away at it little by little, month by month. By 2018, April, 9 years to the date, I feel like I was gestating for 9 years, this giant of a book, I finally had something I was ready to submit to an editor. And thank God she was very gentle with me. The things that she took exception with more than anything were the times where I was self-effacing. Because evidently, if you're writing a book that's essentially a Jewish self-help book, you want to come across like the authority figure. So needless moments of humility, as far as she was concerned, were out. She also had some issues with my commas and whatever, so I needed a little straightening out. Once I got the book back, I read it through another 15 times in its entirety over the next year. And then, thank God, by April 2019, I was finally ready to have it published. By Shavuot, 7 weeks after that, Pesach, when I finished the book, the first copy arrived on my doorstep. So that was my accomplishment. I feel like joy is a crucial thing to discuss. We're all in a search for happiness. That in itself should confuse anyone who is a big fan of Darwinian evolution. Why are human beings so hardwired to seek joy in their lives? Why do we feel like we deserve happiness? Why do we have an internal clock that tells us when we're on track? Why do we suddenly feel like we're in sync when everything's going right? When we're dotting every I and crossing every T in our lives? Why do we feel a tremendous sense of accomplishment when we reach a goal? I believe it's our soul speaking. I don't think there's any other way to describe it. Scientists are great about telling us our biology, but there's something spiritual about our being. One of my favorite rabbis, Rabbi Benjamin Blech, said people go to orchestras to hear the Philharmonic play if you ever go to Disney Hall, not to hear horsehair scraping catgut. You go for a musical experience, and the enjoyment is a soul enjoyment. Yeah, you can analyze that certain sound waves are coming in your ears and stimulating the brain in a certain way, but truly it's a soul experience. You're hearing music that is timeless, that is eternal, that is touching the deepest depths of what mankind can accomplish. Those accomplishments of the soul, as far as I'm concerned, are the ultimate nachas moments. So Jewish joy, otherwise known as nachas, is something that we experience as members of the tribe very uniquely. It's different than having pride in your child getting an A. Nachas is closely related to the word Noach, like the guy who built the ark. Also, when we put tefillin on, we make a blessing, l'haniach, tefillin. It's essentially the word resting assured that all will go well for the Jewish future. Jewish joy is predicated on Jewish continuity. We all feel in our bones that this is something important. The relationship with God is crucial. We don't want it to stop with us. We desperately want to pass it on to the next generation. That's perhaps why the Seder is the most popular holiday for the Jewish people. Lighting Hanukkah candles is great, but we will schlep cooking, cleaning our house, whatever, to make Seders, and we do it across all denominations with fervor, because the essential nachas, the essential joy that we seek, is knowing that the next generation gets it. We want to perpetuate this gift of our Judaism. So, one thing I realized when I was writing about joy is not passive. Joy requires effort. I remember when I first got to yeshiva, one of the things the Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Noach Weinberg, used to point out is that there's a primary difference between comfort and pleasure. When we are looking at what gives us the most pleasure in life, it's not what gives us the most comfort. The words are very distinct. Ask any parent what their greatest pleasure is, and they will often say their children. And if you ask them what their greatest pain is, they will say their children. Right? Parents are proportionally happy based on the happiness of their least happy child. So, happiness, joy, nachas, takes work. You have to work for it. You have to sow the seeds so that we reap joy in the end, as King David tells us in the Psalms. Those who sow with pain will reap joy. So it takes a little work. And I'm hoping that for those of you who haven't read the book yet, you'll take this journey with me and feel a deep wellspring of joy based on the things that you do, but maybe also feel a little bit of lack in your life. A little shortcoming. Maybe there's something here in the book that you can take on and work at. At the end of every chapter, I finish with 4 questions for the A students, as we discussed. Now, most of my readers have reported to me that they are absolutely blowing off the 4 questions and are just enjoying reading the book for the book. Enjoying the anecdotes. There's a bunch of funny stories in here to keep things light. But they're not necessarily doing that. But some people are really enjoying the 4 questions. And as I recommend in the introduction for the A students, to actually keep a journal and answer those 4 questions. Because it's not enough, if you're really working towards maximizing joy in your life, to just read it. You have to take it in to inculcate this message. I know for myself, when I want to learn a subject and I'm in a class, I take copious notes. It gives me something to review, but something, even if I never read my notes, the act of writing them makes them concrete. Similar to when we're praying, according to our sages, we learn from Hannah, the great prophetess, that the proper way to pray is to have the prayer words on our lips. We don't just silently stand there and read the Shemona Esrei, the Amidah. We're actually supposed to say it silently, just so we can hear it. Because when we speak it, it comes into being. We're bringing it into reality. Something about writing does that. Another thing in the book that I decided to add was, I have written thousands of songs. I write a couple songs a week.
Wow.
I'm 57 years old.
Wow.
I started writing songs when I was about 6. So I've written a lot of songs over the course of my life, thousands of songs. Only the very few make my albums. And thank God I've had the great fortune as a composer and musician to release 25 albums over the course of my career. But it's just scratching the surface of what I've written. I made the decision, since I had a song that pretty much summarized my feelings about every chapter, to start each chapter with a song. So I include an encapsulated abridged lyric and a link to the song on my website, which is the new website, which is joyofjudaism.com, or thejoyofjudaism.com, or if you're lazy, joyjude.com. And if you're really doing your extra credit, you can listen before you read any given chapter to the particular emotional message that I'm trying to give over. And some of us really respond to the world musically. For some, music's like something we put in the car just to get us through traffic. For others, we love music, and we're fans of music, and we're obsessed with music. I make music all day. I run a recording studio where I produce albums, not only for myself. I have a wonderful group of clients. I do music for all sorts of media, like apps and games and whatever. And even though I've been listening to music all day, I'll still go out and hear music at night, because I love supporting live music in town. And I feel like rather than going to a movie or just sitting at home, if I have friends playing at the Baked Potato or at my place, or Bogey's right next door to you here, I want to be there. I want to support them, and I love drinking in a great concert with this world's greatest musicians, most of whom live in Los Angeles. So, for those who relate with music, I try to give you that modality to get into the learning. So, my plan for today is to sort of give you an overview of the various chapters in the book, or the sections in the book. There's 10 sections, 70 chapters, 180,000 words. It was released on 420. All the numbers are important. So I wanted to give you an overview of what's in the book, and then read a couple stories for the fun of it. I've actually never read my book aloud, and I practiced with my wife, if you can believe that, last night, just to see how it would go. It's my first book signing in history, so God willing, the first of many. And then I want to open it up for questions, and not only questions, but if you have a comment or some part of the book that intrigued you or you're curious about, I'd really love to hear it, because, you know, I wrote this in a vacuum. It was just me in my recording studio typing away, or on airplanes with my iPad typing away. So I'm really hungry for feedback. So the 9 sections of the book begin with what I call Judaism 101, where I cover half a dozen essential topics that I think are crucial to extend one's vocabulary. And by the way, I'm very fluid with going into the Hebrew term for any of these various concepts, because I believe that those people invested in the Joy of Judaism need to have these words in their vocabulary, nachas being one of them. Another is hineni, right? The chapter opens with hineni. Some of you have heard my hineni song. I sang it one year at High Holidays. It means, here I am. It means, in other words, Nike speak, just do it. Right? Like you're wondering when you're going to get off your butt and start doing something with your life. That's like right now. That's today. So I go over these various concepts, and I have Judaism 202, a little bit more advanced concepts. And then I go into a litany of big picture subjects, ritual objects, prayer, discussing all the various prayer services, Shachrit, Mincha, Mariv. I go into holidays, and I divide them by the spring, summer holidays versus the fall and winter holidays. I cover life cycle events from birth to death. I discuss community and the urgency of affiliating. Obviously, I'm preaching to the choir here. You all showed up at Ner Simcha for this beautiful event. But I'm hoping that some of my readers who are not affiliated use this as a jumpstart for their affiliation, and to find someplace in their community where they can call home Jewishly. I discuss raising Jewish kids, parenting section, and lastly, I discuss a section of music and the power of music, since that is my unique expertise. So, the first section I want to read to you is in the Judaism 202 section of the book, where I discuss faith versus trust in God. The words in Hebrew are emunah versus bitachon. 9 out of 10 Americans claim they have faith in God. They believe God is in their lives. But Judaism asks us to take another step. Judaism asks us to have bitachon, or trust in God. Or as I say in the book, to take your belief in God and put it on the test track. It's great you believe in God, but how is that going to change your life? This is something that takes a lot of work. The word for the work you have to do to build this faith is hishtadlut. It takes effort. Sometimes you got to work on your emunah to get to a place where you have bitachon. I just wanted to describe those words first, so when I get to them in the story, you're not completely lost. Everybody with me?
Yes.
All right, so this is just an excerpt from the chapter, because in the chapter, I wanted to give an illustration of a time where I had to summon my own personal bitachon. According to Rambam, Maimonides, emunah is the knowledge that God created and continues to maintain all creation. Jews are not pantheists, those who share a sense of wonder for God's universe, but eschew an immanent deity. Our legacy is the radical concept that there are no random occurrences. God is intricately involved in every detail of life. Acts of God are not only famine, disease, and disaster. Acts of God are also dolphins, babies, and snowflakes. With emunah, we know God is present with every individual 24/7, loving us, hearing our prayers, and decreeing our fate. Bitachon is the next level of connection. With bitachon, we take our relationship with God onto the test track. We are proactive in life, but acknowledge God is in charge of the results. It's possible to have great emunah in God's existence, but not trust God to have our back. The Jewish goal is to go beyond belief. The ideal is to live every day manifesting belief, or as I like to put it, walking the talk. At Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv, the bitachon counter is where charming young Israelis ask if we've packed everything ourselves. It's the modern Hebrew term for security. As faithful Jews, we place God at the helm of our security team. Yes, we make efforts to secure the flight by screening passengers and luggage, but we do so knowing our ultimate security remains in the hands of the Almighty. Our goal is to become masters of bitachon, with unflinching confidence that the Creator of all reality is doing what is best for all creation, for all time. I'm going to skip some of the details now and go straight to a story. Ready for that? Yeah. All right. One of the benefits of frequent worldwide travel with exacting schedules is the opportunity to flex my personal bitachon muscle. The more I live on the edge, the more I must rely on God to get me out of harrowing situations. If I don't break through barriers, I never get out of the box. Life is exciting outside the box. I had the good fortune of getting booked to perform at a prestigious wedding on a... Oh, that's not the story I was going to read. That's one story. This is the next story. My beloved cardiologist uncle, Dr. Daniel Berman, bought a new car for his big sister, my mother. He is so enamored of his Tesla that he wanted my septuagenarian mom to have the same electric thrill zooming down Sunset Boulevard. She has been making the most of this gas-free lifestyle and wanted to try the Tesla superchargers dotting the U.S. countryside. She decided the perfect week for this adventure would be when I had a series of concerts in Northern California. My first stop was Sacramento, which happens to be where my mom and her brother grew up. She volunteered to drive me. We would have a lovely day together in her 0 to 60 mile per hour in 3 seconds race car. And then she would drive back alone the next day. She invited her McClatchy High School friends and a few of our relatives to attend my Mosaic Law Synagogue performance. We even rehearsed her cheerleading fight songs so I could add them to my set list. She brought the tuna sandwiches, and I assembled a selection of our favorite songs on my iPhone to enable us to harmonize throughout the drive. The day before our trip, my mom called to let me know we would have to leave at least 9 hours before my 5:30 p.m. sound check. What? I responded. This drive should only take 5 hours. Evidently, the Tesla computer indicated we had to stop at 3 superchargers. Recharging would add about 3 hours to our trip. But don't worry, Mom said, they are located in nice places to take a break. Suddenly, my leisurely day with Mom sounded a bit too leisurely. I prodded her into leaving a little later, promising her all would be well. After all, I had bitachon. God wanted me to reach my gig on time. She didn't buy it. There is no arguing with my mom when she makes up her mind. I would sacrifice sleep for the sake of shalom. The next morning arrived too soon. After working until 4 a.m. and getting only a few hours of sleep, my mother arrived right on time, bright-eyed and raring to go. We loaded my gear in the surprisingly roomy car and set off on our adventure. A mere hour later, we hit the Grapevine, an extensive mountain pass that sucks heavily on electricity. I didn't realize that the range indicated on the odometer would be sharply reduced by excess speed and climbing. For this reason, Tesla executives situated the first supercharger outside of LA in Lebec, a truck stop town at the end of the Grapevine. Fortunately, it's located next to a delicious do-it-yourself kosher-certified yogurt land. We enjoyed our treats in the air-conditioned shop while the car recharged in the sweltering 95-degree heat. We returned to the vehicle to discover my mom hadn't properly inserted the recharging cable.
Oh.
That's right, it didn't get any charge whatsoever. She plugged it in securely, and we returned to the yogurt land to escape the stifling Central Valley haze. After another half hour, she returned to our car. Mom screamed, "Oh!" I locked the keys in the car. Somehow I managed to keep my cool, confident that Elon Musk had a brilliant solution for such emergencies. After calming my mother down, I called the Tesla dealer. Eventually, a service person was able to unlock our car remotely. Victory! I did a quick calculation, and to my relief, we would still be on time, but we had to get moving. When we set off, I could no longer keep my eyes open. I apologized to my mom for being lousy company, reclined my seat, and passed out. A half hour later, I awoke with a horrible sense of dread. As the street signs came into focus, I noticed we were driving south on the 5 freeway. No! I struggled to maintain composure and growled, "Mom, what happened?" She responded that 20 miles out of Lubeck, the computer flashed a warning indicating she had to return to the previous supercharger. The car would be dead on the side of the road if we didn't turn around. My well-developed bitachon eroded like a California mudslide. Back to the same charger, back to the same yogurt land. The lady behind the counter giggled when she saw us return. Evidently, this behavior is not uncommon for supercharging customers. As we waited for the charge, we called the dealership to assess the problem. They explained the only way to make it from one charger to the next is to go between 55 and 60 miles per hour on a freeway where the speed limit is 70 and most drive 85. Our speed had to be slower than the 18-wheelers, and yet we were in a revolutionary sports car. Clearly, this celebrated automobile is not ready for prime time. Before my Sacramento concert, I would be breaking in a new drummer and rehearsing with a local kids choir. Showing up late was not an option. I have built my reputation on being reliable and prompt. In 20 years, I have never missed a downbeat. Thank God. Now, what was I going to do? Even at a lethargic 55 miles an hour, the onboard computer kept sounding the alarm that we wouldn't make it. Who wants a car that keeps the driver paralyzed with fear that it is going to die any moment? Despite this predicament, I somehow kept it together, consciously converting my agitation to placid complacency. I repeated, "All will be well. God wants me to get to my show and will help me one way or the other." I called the cantor of the synagogue to advise him of our situation, assuring him I would make it, but might be a bit late. I couldn't get upset with my mom. She was already freaking out. As we limped along in the slow lane, I realized at the next stop I was going to have to hitchhike with someone who had a very fast car. Electric vehicles need not apply. It was time to double down on my hishtadlut. At the halfway point in the trip, the sprawling Western-themed Harris Ranch restaurant is equipped with a dozen superchargers. I entered the main dining room, summoned my chutzpah, and loudly asked if anyone was traveling to Sacramento. Tourists from all nations stopped their meals and shot me icy glares as if I were a homicidal maniac. Me. I tried the next dining room to no avail. I then braved the outside heat to wait for any travelers who might sympathize with my plight. Letting the families and non-English speakers pass, I eventually set my sights on a middle-aged couple who appeared to be good-natured Christians. When they replied that yes, they were Sacramento bound, I walked with them to their car and explained my strange saga. They saw my mom in her ill-fated Tesla and opened their hearts, allowing me to stuff my luggage, keyboard, and stand into the back seat of their brand new Mercedes C300 Turbo Coupe. My new friends Ron and Christine were even kind enough to let me ride shotgun. Yes, I abandoned my mom at the rest stop. She would have to wait the full hour for the charge, and quite frankly, she was thrilled to be rid of me and my urgent deadline. As the Mercedes flew down the road at 85 miles an hour, I conversed with my saviors about Judaism, overseas travel, and Ron's life in the Navy. We had a scary moment when Ron narrowly avoided a multiple car fender bender. Upon arriving in Sacramento mid-rush hour, I deferred to Waze to find the most expeditious route. At long last, we pulled in the synagogue driveway. It was exactly 5:30, my promised arrival time. Any questions so far before I dive into the next adventure? My mom made it. I had a 2.5-hour sound check, and my mom got in there maybe by the second song. So it was a very long day for my mom. And then she had to do the same experiment on the way home. Yes?
Next time you're at Harris Ranch, let me know. I'll come up for a steak and drive you up.
Thank you. You never know.
Don't offer something you don't.
Oh,
My wife warns people about offering me things.
Do not write checks with your mouth, you won't have it.
Harris Ranch, best steaks in America.
Really?
Absolutely.
Wow. See, I had no idea. It was in too big a hurry.
Plus they're not kosher, so you wouldn't.
Oh, all right, never mind.
Yeah.
So I want to read another excerpt to you, and I feel like it's appropriate and timely. It really actually always is, because it seems like there's so many Jewish holidays. We're always preparing for something. But tomorrow night is Rosh Chodesh Adar, the beginning of the month of Adar. And it's a time when the rabbis have decided that we have to up our game in terms of our joy. They teach when Adar comes in, Misha Nichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha, we increase our joy. So as of tomorrow night, you can't be unhappy anymore. I'm sorry to tell you.
Why
No being morose, no complaining.
Why a dog?
Why a dog?
I'm getting there.
Oh.
This month is incredibly important. One reason Adar is a joyful month is because it contains our holiday of divine bacchanalian abandon, which is otherwise known as Purim. Right? It's the month of partying. Another reason we celebrate Adar with such fervor is because it's the last month of the Jewish calendar. Many people think the Jewish calendar begins with Rosh Hashanah. Right? When we all see each other once a year for the past 5 years, we've always said, Shana Tova, right? Happy New Year. But it's really not New Year's. According to the Bible, and it was actually the very first commandment given to the Jews as a people, right? There were a few commandments given to the older generations, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then later, especially in this week's Parsha, Mishpatim, we have 54 commandments, I believe, in one Parsha. But then, when we were about to leave Egypt, the very first commandment given to us as a people, lands. And that is to keep a calendar, starting with Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Nisan being the month when Pesach happens. Purim is always 30 days before Pesach. So, not necessarily in the United States where we prepare for Pesach, but we don't go quite so crazy. In Jerusalem, when they prepare for Pesach, they really mean business. And as soon as Purim is over, they are mamish, which means extremely in Pesach preparation mode. I'd like to argue that we should start preparing for Purim as of tomorrow night. Rosh Chodesh Adar comes in, the rabbis say we have to be joyful. So I command all of you to increase your joy. And as we've discussed in the book, how do we do that? By affiliating, by doing more things, by going to Hamantash and Hurls.
And getting tickets.
Yeah.
And getting tickets. By supporting the institutions you love, namely Ner Simcha, because giving tzedakah, both with your money and your time, really lifts your spirits. You know, they say when you're down in the dumps, the best way to get out of that is to start giving. I also remember one of our favorite rabbis, Rabbi Nachum Braverman, used to teach us as a couple when we were first talking about getting married. The best way to jumpstart a relationship, if things were getting a little stale, is to start giving to each other relentlessly. It seems counterintuitive, right? Because you're fighting and it's not the warm enough to start giving to each other. Why do we love our kids so much? Because we're giving to them all the time. So we increase our joy by being involved in acts of giving, acts of kindness, acts of affiliation, and also doing things that we love. At the end of the book, I conclude by saying, and don't forget to have a good time. One time we had a Sheva Bracha, which is the party that you throw married people for 7 days after they're married. Jewish people maintain that the couple isn't quite ready for isolation. We don't disappear on a horse and carriage and then the couple leave on a honeymoon. We force the couple, according to our tradition, to engage in community celebrations every night for 7 nights. Big festivities, Birkat HaMazon is said every time, you break bread. It's very involved. So, at one of the Sheva brachas that we threw for a friend, everybody was going around the room discussing what it takes to be happily married, offering tidbits of marital advice. And I was kind of getting bored, and it was getting a little redundant. So when it came my turn, I somewhat flippantly said, just have a good time. Everybody looked at me like, Sam, that's all? I said, yeah, just have a good time. So the next time this particular couple came to our house for a Shabbat meal, he bought me a Mickey Mouse watch. And he wrote to my friend Sam, may you always have a good time. So the bottom line is, we do joy by giving, but we also have to give to ourselves. We have to cut ourselves some slack. We have to do the things we love with the people we love. And if you want to do things you love, but nobody wants to come with you, you got to go alone. Just go anyway. Go enjoy yourself, have a beer, take a hike on your own, whatever it takes. Just do things that make you happy. So that's starting tomorrow night. No more being pessimistic or morose. I'm not looking for any given reason. Just laying it out there. So this next chapter I want to read to you from is a chapter about the preparation for holidays and how preparation makes all the difference. You know how they say you only get out of college what you put into it? Some kids just skate by and party and don't feel like they get any education. Well, it's true in life. You've got to put a lot of energy into anything you take on, or else you're not going to get so much into it. So the same is true for Jewish holidays. Pesach, we know about the preparation, right? We've got to do spring cleaning, cook a lot of food, got to buy matzahs, you got to make charoset. There's no end to the things you do. Sukkot, we also know about preparing. Not only because the rabbi here throws such an amazing series of Sukkot parties, but the community gets involved in the building of the sukkah, right? We don't just show up. We got to put this thing together. And you got to research, where's the best lulav and etrog in town, right? When we're shaking the four species. So the best holidays happen when we put the time in. Rosh Hashanah is as effective as the preceding month of Elul. So come the beginning of Elul, that's usually the beginning of the Zman, or the semester for kids in Israel. That's when they usually start school. And those 30 days, knowing that Rosh Hashanah is coming, the Day of Judgment, are a very serious time of self-analysis. Where are our goals? Where are we shining? Where are we falling short? What did we promise we were going to do last year's resolution? Where do we want to answer this year with a really firm resolution and really make it happen? So that's preparation. So I take you now to a particular story in the chapter, which is describing a backpacking trip I took with my sons. As a child, I was fortunate to spend my summers backpacking in the Sierras. My soul has always been nurtured by exploring regions of unspoiled beauty, encountering the silence of the forest, fording rushing rivers, and summiting cloud-piercing peaks. My first album featured songs written from age 7 to 11, with such titles as Wilderness, This World, The Last Frontier, and This Valley. I still can't get enough of my outdoor fix. To this day, when I'm on my concert tour and the opportunity arises in between shows, I try to fill my days with a walk to a waterfall, a ride on a mountain biking trail, or a session at a local surf spot. My kids used to run the other direction when I proposed we take a hike. I refrained from telling them where we were going and would hide their boots in the back of the van. That way I could get them out of the house without straitjackets. Once we hit the trail, however, they inevitably warmed to the experience. Their dispositions would shift from boredom to wonder, sarcasm to innocence, cynicism to curiosity. Back when my sons were strapping adolescents, I proposed we go for a serious backpacking trip, our first together, in the wilderness of Sedona, Arizona. They had a week before camp was starting, and I had gigs scheduled in Tucson. Surprisingly, they were excited about the idea, and the itinerary occupied weeks of our conversation. Admittedly, using their pocket knives and building fires were the primary attractions. My daughter, Sarah Lena, then a 9-year-old diva in pink, would have to wait a few more years. How could I remain sequestered in my recording studio, knowing my boys were available for an adventure of this magnitude? I was growing ever aware of the fleeting nature of their precious childhood. What I didn't anticipate was the intensive preparation and expense. When leaving civilization, one can't run to a 7-Eleven for a Slurpee. As a kid on those summer trips, all the hard work was done for me. Now I had to rent our packs, plan lightweight kosher meals, deal with water purification, acquire sleeping bags and pads, a tent, first aid kit, and plenty of sunscreen. I inculcated my progeny with carefully curated classic rock for our 7-hour drive. To the strains of Boston, the Beatles, Kansas, and AC/DC, we jammed through the barren Southwest, arriving in Sedona just as the sun was setting. We stayed in a beautiful hillside home of friends in the area, and that first evening, while I shared backcountry exploits in their jacuzzi, we witnessed a spectacular meteorite, tail and everything, streaking across the star-stained sky. Our first hike involved climbing one of the famous red rock buttes surrounding the city. Within an hour, the sole of my son Jesse's boot fell off completely, and he had to finish the day in Crocs. After a dip in a spectacular Oak Creek swimming hole, we frantically searched all over town for new boots, and after multiple stops, got lucky finding the only pair in his size. Finally, after a few days of trial hikes, we had packs on our backs and set out on our 14-mile Red Rock Canyon adventure. After the first 3 miles, we switched from hiking boots to water sandals. The canyon narrowed precipitously. The trail disappeared, and we had to walk in the river the rest of the way. We gawked at bouquets of butterflies and walls of wildflowers clinging to the weeping cliffs. The absolute solitude was broken only by soaring hawks and herons overhead, insidious spiders lurking in the shadows, and sonorous mountain goats. By the 6th mile, Jesse was at breaking point. He couldn't go on. We needed a campsite immediately, and there was nothing but red rock walls on either side of us. The final straw was a 6-foot-deep channel of water with no way to get through it other than swimming. Try swimming with a backpack. Max and I abandoned our packs and scaled the cliff wall to see if there was another way. Sure enough, we found a ledge with a fire ring. Someone else had gotten stuck here and made the best of it, but there was no room for a tent. Max noticed there was a route to get up even higher on the cliff. Remarkably, about 60 feet above the river, we found a full-blown campsite. A perfect, well-shaded hideout to enjoy for the duration of our trip, with flat ground for our tent and a fire ring with log benches all around it. Can you imagine our happy dance? That night, we thanked Hashem for the providence of our discovery as we pondered the Milky Way and roasted salami on the open flame. Why am I sharing this anecdote? It's all about the campsite. Our campsite was the sweetest campsite in the world. Better than any 5-star hotel. Why? Because we worked so hard for it. Because we sweated out the intensive preparation required to survive half a week in the wilderness. Because we drove so far, woke up at dawn, and hiked miles with heavy backpacks. For us, that magical 20 square feet of dirt represented pushing beyond our perceived limitations and emerging triumphant. This dynamic is the essence of Jewish holidays. The intensive pre-Pesach spring cleaning, cooking, and Seder planning makes for a powerful Passover. The 49-day Sfirat HaOmer countdown to Shavuot creates anticipation for the reenactment of the Sinai experience. There's nothing like the first night of Sukkot when sitting in the sukkah we have schlepped from the storage room built and decorated. And Rosh Hashanah is as potent as the spiritual work we undertake during the preceding month of Elul. Preparation and persistence are the keys to any meaningful journey. We carefully broke camp on the last day of our adventure, ensuring we didn't leave a trace of our visit. I emphasized zero-impact camping to my young charges, quoting ecologist Chief Seattle, "Take only memories, leave only footprints." We stuffed down all our remaining food for lunch so we wouldn't have to carry it. In between mouthfuls of mashed potatoes, Suddenly, 2 brown beasts burst forth from the bushes. We screamed as we leapt up, ready to protect ourselves with our plastic sporks. These 2 energetic chocolate Labrador retrievers were exploring the canyon and must have smelled our kosher turkey MREs. Coco and Charlie became our dogs for the rest of the day. Their enthusiasm made the chore of hauling our packs a lot more fun. Toward sunset, as we reached the mouth of the canyon, we heard someone shouting, "Stop calling my dogs!" This poor guy hadn't seen his dogs all day. I scampered up a rock wall to the source of the voice and quickly explained to this lone backpacker that we weren't trying to steal his animals. As I spoke, he gave me a puzzled look. When I paused, he said, "Are you Sam Glaser?" Can you imagine? It was Glenn Good, a friend from Palisades High School. He had moved to Arizona in search of a tranquil place to build his brand of custom museum quality furniture, the only human being we had seen in days. I've never received applause for reading before, and thank you. This is great. All right, so I'm going to open it up to questions, comments, anything, and I'll run with it. Yeah.
You're an amazing storyteller.
Thank you.
I love your stories. I love the way you write. I noticed a lot of like alliteration, like the way you write.
Yes.
I write, so I know a lot of those things. It's
Yes.
very, very well written, very engaging, and your stories always have a little bit of humor in them, which is definitely like the way to keep an audience.
Right. Yeah.
Very well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I've learned that I lead a lot of Shabbatons around the country, and I'm really excited about pontificating about heavy Torah things. And a lot of the time, the audience absolutely does not want to hear that. I'm often pigeonholed as someone who will speak about music. And I tell them, well, you can look at my list of workshops. I have 40 workshops on my website that they can choose from. None of them are about music. I want to talk about other stuff. I sing about music. I want to talk about other things. Frank Zappa was famous for saying, talking about music is like dancing about architecture. I have no interest in dancing about architecture, whatever that means. I just want to talk about Torah. But I've learned that people will fall asleep readily unless you inject stories and humor into the mix. I just performed at 2 p.m. at the Jewish Home in Reseda, and I had a wonderful group. The security guard told me it's the biggest crowd he's ever seen at a concert there. Wonderful people. I knew several of them, which I didn't expect. And keeping the concert moving and keeping the elderly from falling asleep requires a little story here and there and a bit of humor. So I appreciate your comment. Yeah? You had a comment?
Yeah, and thank you for that. It was lovely stories. And I feel, and I love the title of the book, and I love being fortunate enough to experience joy in my life. But I struggle with a lot of the Jewish terms.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just wondering, and would be more educated, I guess, by when you use them in the book to also perhaps have an English, what does that mean? Like
Right.
you talk to us now about it,
Right.
but I don't know if that's actually in the book. I haven't read it.
Okay, you haven't read the book yet. So I define every word every time I use it until I feel like by now, please God, the reader should understand what nachas or mitzvah or whatever the word is. So anytime you see something in italics, it's a word, as I say in the introduction to the book, that I feel that those who are fully invested in their Joy of Judaism should have in their vocabulary. Of course, I also have a comprehensive glossary in the back of the book to cover about 10 pages worth of terminology. I feel like recently I was addressing some people who are song leaders in the Reform movement. And I was trying to give them a little nudge that they should learn how to lead songs in the conservative movement too. To learn the songs that make the Camp Ramah kids click. And learn the terminology that Camp Ramah kids know. Because Camp Ramah kids know a lot of Hebrew because Ramah is a Hebrew immersion program. So it's not expected for American adults to take on Hebrew. I'm not expecting anyone to become fluent by reading my book, but I do hope that there's a fluency or an ease with these Hebrew terms, because I feel like we have to have a comfort factor for hanging out with Jews of all stripes, be it a Chabadnik or somebody who never had a bar or bat mitzvah. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I just loved your talk and your stories. Do you have any plans for doing an audio book by any chance, or a Kindle?
Plans to do what?
Doing an audio book or a Kindle version?
This is the first time I've ever read my book aloud.
Uh-huh.
I actually rehearsed with my wife last night because I realized I may want to read through this stuff and like get her opinion, like what's working and what's not, and see if I'm fluid. I didn't even know if I could. Making an audiobook for such a big undertaking like the Joy of Judaism, this encyclopedic overview, is not just a weekend of my time. So I do want to do it. Right now I'm in the middle of making the Kindle edition. I'm also in a fundraising mode because I'm trying to donate to there's over 1,000 Jewish libraries across the country, in synagogues, JCCs, and self-standing libraries. And I'm coming up with a hard copy version of the book. That'll be a library edition, with some benefactor's name on the top of it. And the audiobook is next. And I also want to translate it at least into Spanish and Hebrew, because I know that there are millions of Israelis who consider themselves chiloni, which is poorly translated as secular. Most Israelis that you meet are intensely traditional. They celebrate the Jewish holidays. They celebrate Shabbat. They may laugh at rabbis in long coats and think they have nothing to do with that, and think that the Bible is just a magical book of spells that they don't need to be concerned with. But they have a deep, abiding respect for their Judaism. They fight in the IDF for the Promised Land. They've been to the Kotel, the Holy Western Wall, to be sworn in. They have a deep feeling of their Judaism. So why not give them the joy that I think is their birthright, just by deepening their connection and commitment? So I'm really, really emphatic about finding that person who's super fluent in both languages. As you hear from my English, it's been a fairly common complaint that this isn't just, 5 minutes on the toilet reading. Right? This is kind of, you have to invest. And I've always been a reader and a writer, and I love nuance in choosing the vocabulary word. Part of the reason I read this 15 times over is because I wanted to make sure I was getting exactly what I wanted to get over, and making sure I didn't do too many alliterations. Because I write like a poet, because I'm a lyricist. So, I had to be careful not to freak people out too much. But I need a Hebrew speaker that has the command of English and Hebrew to be able to get all those nuances. Yeah?
So one of the other things is a book like this, our tradition is to read. And you're right, I know I do, and I'm going to guess you do as well. We read important books, we highlight, we write notes in the margins. Can't get that in an audio. So better to buy many copies of this, give it to friends with yellow highlighters, and study it that way, or study it as a group together.
But you could have it both ways.
Well, it's hard with the audiobook.
Yeah, some people only do audiobooks.
Hire Sam
for driving
for the
these
speaking
days.
engagement.
Because I do. I have it audio, and then I have the written, and so I can.
One thing that I thought might help me do this, just the way I operate. The only way to do this is to bite off little pieces. Like any goal, you have to break it down into smaller goals. And I haven't started yet, but I'm thinking of maybe starting an audio blog and just releasing one chapter at a time. And then finally, at the end of the effort, and that's something I can commit to, taking an hour once a week because it's not only the reading, it's the editing as well. Yes?
You described me a few minutes ago where I was intensely respecting the tradition, remembering growing up with my family, but non-practicing, and that's what brought me to Ner Simcha, and I'm evolving out of that. I know it's a new book, but are you finding people that are reading the book that are slowly becoming, feeling more Jewish, wanting to practice and study more? Are you finding that experience yet?
Not enough. Not enough.
By the way, I appreciate some of the stories because I went to Camp Ramah, I think the same time you did,
Yeah.
and I went to school in Sedona.
Really? Wow, what a nice spot. I'm very happy in Sedona. That's definitely a happy place
Yes.
for me. I feel very connected. It's considered a spiritual vortex. And my spirit is, like magnetic north. Don't want to go to sleep. Let's wake up at dawn and hike again. Which is why we may never take another family vacation there.
Some people go and don't leave.
Yeah, I can see that. There's also a synagogue where I've been trying to get booked. I haven't tried in recent years, and it almost has worked out, but it never has. But the Reformed synagogue there has a beautiful picture window looking out at Red Rock.
Oh my
So
God.
can you imagine davening with that
Oh
view?
my God.
Yeah, nice. More questions and comments? Yes?
As you said, some of us relate to music. I really enjoyed the part that you have the music reference before the chapters. It really puts you in the right place before you start reading. So
Thank you.
that's-
Have you been reading the book and listening to the music?
Yeah, I started.
Oh yeah, oh good. Yeah, nice. Yes?
I'm redoing the temple's website. Is it a problem if we put the book on there with a link to like Amazon? And also, Orlando's recording this, can we put a link and put that up there?
I would be honored. Yeah, that's all good with me. That's, Orlando's such a superstar. Catching these moments.
How do we connect? You mentioned it earlier, I apologize, but you mentioned about listening to excerpts of your music before each chapter.
Yeah. Oh, there's a link. The beginning of every chapter has a link. The Kindle version will have an actual button you can push to hear it. And I encourage people to listen not necessarily on their computer speakers, but to actually put on headphones. Like I'm into something called audio quality. And I really like, it's my own selfish shtick, but I really like when my songs are heard like they're meant to be heard. And thankfully a good pair of earbuds that you get with your iPhone sound pretty amazing. So I just recommend that you, invest in a nice pair of headphones or put it on a stereo when you listen and crank it up really loud. So,
One of the things that as I was reading, and I didn't read the whole book.
Yes.
There's a lot of information in the chapters, but what I learned is that each holiday that you talk about,
yes,
I didn't know anything about.
certain holidays you didn't even know about.
I knew of the holidays, but
Yeah.
you have the background and
Right.
the stories
Yeah,
that the holiday brings out. And
right.
what was I this year? I never even knew.
Yeah, I was amazed by certain holidays too as I started getting more into my Judaism, like Shavuot. I think because it was outside of the realm of Sinai Temple Hebrew School, in other words, we already graduated by the time Shavuot came around, I literally did not know it existed.
No.
And then I got to Israel and found out it's one of the three most important holidays. It's called Shalosh Regalim holidays, when the Jewish people were commanded to gather in Jerusalem. So yeah, unfortunately that happened a lot. I had major gaps in my knowledge. And my mom said, don't you remember we had Aunt Martha's blintzes?
Yeah.
Because she got a little defensive. Like, what do you mean we didn't teach you anything? And I do remember eating Aunt Martha's blintzes, but got no explanation why we were having a dairy meal. So, one thing I wanted to mention is that one thing I'm hearing from readers is that they're enjoying this as a book just to read for fun, and they're also enjoying it as a reference to keep on the shelf. And then having their mind jog, oh yeah, I was thinking about that issue in terms of parenting. Or Pesach's coming up. I remember Sam has 2 essays on Pesach in the book. or whatever. So I'm hoping it functions as both an enjoyable read all the way through from beginning to end and a reference. So, and I also made sure that I got testimonials, which was a little bit awkward for me because it's like asking people to write wonderful things about you. But I wanted to make sure that when I got testimonials from the various authority figures in Judaism that I respect, who I've learned from over the years, that I get people from all walks of life. And I went to the top. Like I got the chief rabbi of Israel, or Rabbi Benjamin Blech, who's head of the Talmud department at Yeshiva University, and I got Rabbi Danny Friedlander, who's the head of the progressive Jewish movement of the entire world. In other words, that's the umbrella organization of Reform Judaism in this country. So, I really strove to get, and somebody saw my testimonials before they read the book and said they think it's unprecedented to have these sound bites from people across the denominational spectrum praising a book. And I'm very blessed that my career has allowed me to interface with all of those avenues. There's so much we have to learn from each other. So,
Sam,
yeah.
It would be something, wouldn't it be wonderful if sisterhoods all over the country used your book as their book club book, and after going through it, they could call you out for a speaking engagement. And maybe there's a group of women here in Westlake that occasionally, I don't know if there is one or not, we're sharing, that might want to study the book together and then have book club meetings on it every whatever period, and then after everyone's read it, maybe invite the author back, and then that could be used for you promoting it to other sisterhoods and men's clubs throughout the country.
Right.
If there was a women's group like that for a temple in the general Westlake area.
Yeah.
Sherry? Not that I'm
If
suggesting.
there's anyone,
How about
anyone.
ladies? Yes, because these are the ladies that most likely.
And it
would
could
be
invite
involved.
men too, just because
Yes.
you sponsor.
Well, you said group of.
Sisters of Simcha.
That's
and
because
friends.
they actually sponsor everything and men just show up. But that is,
Nice idea. Or maybe just a chapter a month.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
exactly.
In addition, so, you're meeting this month and it's the month of Purim, you read the chapter together on, Sam chapter.
Right,
one,
yes.
So that
right.
it's not,
and then after the time period when it's been gone through, then you bring Sam back again and have the dialogue with him, and you can use excerpts or part of it from the video or from dialogue to promote the book with other synagogues for their auxiliary.
Yeah, I love the idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. And I think what I need is a staff. Because really, why aren't I contacting all the sisterhoods in the country?
When do you have time?
Yeah, in all my spare time between running my recording studio and all that other stuff. But that's a great way to do it, is to have the Jewish book clubs of America, namely the sisterhoods, spreading the word. I had a demographic research project and found out that 2/3 of my fans are women. I'm not sure what that means. But
Your wife will do it?
yes, she's gotten used to it. I can read one more anecdote or sing a song. What do you want to do?
A song.
To finish up?
Absolutely, one of each.
Sing a song.
One of each.
One of each.
He's a good one. I was thinking about Modani. For no reason other than somebody mentioned it when I walked into this room. Who mentioned that? I can't remember, but that'll wake us up a little bit. All right. Anyway, thank you for coming. If you're not already on my mailing list, it's samglaser.com, and you'll be burdened with one of my monthly diatribes in your email. And I'm really grateful that you came and are supporting the book. And I'll be signing them on the way out. Yes?
That was my question.
Okay, good. All right, Modani, here we go. Good morning to the world. Thank you for this day. Thank you for the gift of life. You always send my way. What am I gonna sing? What am I gonna do to show how much I feel for you? Modani. Lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam shehechezarta bi nishmati b'chemla rabbi emunatecha. You try this time. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shehechezarta bi nishmati b'chemla rabbi emunatecha. Thank you for the sun. Thank you for the moon. Thank you for the words that fit nicely in this tune. Before I wash my face, before I brush my hair, I recognize you're everywhere. Here we go. Modeh ani, come on. Lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shehechezarta bi nishmati b'chemla rabbi emunatecha. One more time for the lyrically challenged. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shehechezarta bi nishmati b'chemla rabbi emunatecha. Thank you, my friends.
Hey, Sam, first time you've done this. First time you've done a book signing.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
forgot a blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'achiyanu v'kiyumanu v'hiyanu v'azman chaseh.
Amen.
Thanks, friends.